Hey everyone, I'm Liz Ferry and welcome to another episode of my crochet lesson series. In this episode we'll be going over the process of decreasing single crochet stitches in the round. Increasing and decreasing single crochet can be applied to many designs, but is essential in making amigurumi and other types of dolls. Decreases are the opposite of increases, and are used to make the width of the row grow smaller. There are 3 ways you can decrease. Each of these styles of decrease will create a different texture in your finished fabric. You can decide which method you like best, and which is most suitable for your project. In this video, I'll show you how to create the most basic style of decrease. For this project, you'll need to know how to make the magic circle, the chain stitch, the slip stitch, the single crochet stitch, and the increase. You'll also need to know how to crochet seamlessly. You can find all of these crochet lessons in the playlist at the end of the video, or in the description below. If you want to see my full video on what you'll need to begin crocheting, check out my crochet materials list video. For the process of making increases and decreases, you'll just need yarn, a crochet hook, and stitch markers. I'll be using a size H hook in this tutorial, so that it's easier to see what I'm doing. But it's important to note that if you're making something like a doll, you'll need to maintain a higher tension to keep the filling from leaking out through the stitches. Once you've had more practice in making increases and decreases, you can try using a small hook, like a size B or E, to create the more dense fabric needed for making dolls. You can either begin your row of decrease with a long chain, or you could continue working your decreases onto an increased flat circle, like the one we made in the increasing tutorial. That's what I'm going to do in this video. Just like when I was increasing, I'm going to decrease 6 times per row to keep the row flat. More than 6 increases will narrow the work much faster, resulting in a more ruffled shape. And fewer decreases will narrow the work slower, resulting in a more cone-like shape. The basic decrease is just skipping stitches at a regular rate across the entire row. Because I started the first row with the same amount of stitches as increases, the row divides perfectly evenly by 6. If you begin your work on a chain instead, it's a lot easier to divide the row perfectly when decreasing 6 per row if you use a number that's divisible by 6 for your foundation chain. So if you're doing that, try to use a number of chains divisible by 6 to begin your row. You can find the stitch to decrease on by dividing the total number of stitches in the row by the number of decreases, and then subtracting 1 from that number. Since I have 42 stitches in my last row of increase, and I'm decreasing 6 times, I would need to decrease the row every 6th stitch in my first row of decrease. Since I'm decreasing at the 6th stitch, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet into the first 5 stitches of my row. Okay, the next stitch is the 6th stitch of the row. To make a basic decrease, I'm just going to single crochet as normal into the 6th stitch, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch, which would be the 7th stitch of the previous row. Then I'll single crochet into the next stitch, which would be the 8th stitch of the previous row. At this stitch though, I'm going to start my count over again, with this stitch that I just made after the skipped stitch counting as the number 1. So I'm going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches, so that there are 6 single crochet stitches before my next decrease. Okay, I finished with 6 more single crochets. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch, and single crochet into the next one. Now I'll again start my count over with this stitch as number 1, and single crochet in the next 5 stitches, so that I have a total of 6 single crochets before my next decrease. Then skip the next stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch. And I'll continue that pattern until the end of the row. so that I have 6 single crochets, then a skipped stitch all the way around. So the stitch I just made counts as the new number 1 of my count, so I'll single crochet into the next 5 stitches so that I'm on the 6 of my count. Then I'll skip the next stitch, which would be the 7th stitch of my count, then repeat that process until the end of the row. The last stitch of the row should be a skipped stitch. Alright, I've gotten to the end of my row of decreasing every 6th stitch. Now I have 36 stitches in the row. To find the next stitch to decrease on, you could divide the total number of stitches by the number of decreases and subtract 1, which would mean the next row of decreases is on the 5th stitch. You may notice, though, that in the increasing tutorial, I increased every 6th stitch of the row in my last row of increase. Then I decreased every 6th stitch of the row for my first row of decrease, and now in my second row of decrease, I'm going to decrease every 5th stitch of the row. Since decreases are the opposite of increases, I'm going to decrease in the opposite order that I increased in that video. I'll decrease every 5th stitch of the next row, then every 4th stitch in the row after that, then every 3rd stitch in the row after that, all the way until I'm decreasing every single stitch of the row for my last row of decrease. In this next row, I'm going to decrease every 5th stitch. So I'm going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches, then skip 1 stitch, and single crochet another 5 stitches. Alright, then I'm going to skip another stitch, and single crochet another 5 stitches. And I'm going to continue to decrease every 5th stitch all the way around the row. Then I'll continue to decrease by the next number until the last row of decrease. In the next row, I single crocheted 4 times in between each skipped stitch for my decrease. Then in the next row, I single crocheted 3 in between my skipped stitches. In the next, I single crocheted 2 in between my skipped stitches. And in my last row, I single crocheted just one time in between each of my skipped stitches. And now I've gotten to the end of my last row of decrease. To end the work, I'll slip stitch to the first stitch of the next row and cut off my yarn. As you can see, with this style of decreasing, there are some gaps in the work in all the places where I skipped a stitch. This style may be the easiest, but it isn't as suitable for certain types of projects, things like dolls or pillows which have to be stuffed. If the holes are too big, the stuffing might show through those holes. The next two methods I'll show you are more suitable for making projects like that. Those videos are coming soon. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a like and share it on social media. And if you'd really like to help out the channel, you can donate to my Patreon. You can get some pretty cool perks through Patreon, like seeing my videos early, access to some of my prototype patterns, and discounts in my Ravelry store, depending on your level of donation. You can find out more about that at patreon.com/fairyrings. You could also subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss the next episode of this series when it comes out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!